So today we are going to be looking at the demand curve. It's our first episode in the supply and demand series. And yeah, as I said, today we're going to focus first on the demand curve itself. Then we're going to look at the supply curve, and then we'll put the two together and we will find our equilibrium price and quantity. Okay, so first of all, before we begin, I suppose we need to understand what the demand curve is. So the demand curve, it shows us the quantity of a good or a service that's demanded by consumers at given price points. So it basically just graphs the relationship between price and quantity. Okay, I'm going to draw my origin in here. And you can see we have our two axes, our y and our x axes. And on our y-axis we have P for price, and on our x-axis we have Q for quantity. So in this case, when we're looking at demand, we can put a D, our quantity demanded. And as you'd expect, as we move away from the origin on the y-axis, our price increases, and as we move away from the origin on our x-axis, the quantity demanded increases. Okay, so here it might be 1 unit, and up here it might be 10 units. Okay, similarly here it might be €1, and up here it could be €10. Okay, so the further we move away from our origin, the greater the price or the quantity gets. Okay, so you should also notice that the demand curve is downward sloping. Okay, it's downward sloping from left to right. So as we move left to right, the curve slopes downwards. Okay, and why is this the case? Well, it's because there's an inverse relationship between price and quantity, and this basically just means that as price goes up, well, quantity demanded will go down. Quantity demanded will go down, and vice versa. If the price were to go down, well then the quantity demanded will increase. Okay, and we can demonstrate this here. So what we do is we just pick a point here, so P1. Okay, and what we do is we come across until we hit our demand curve. So at P1, our quantity demanded will be Q1. Okay, so at P1, our quantity demanded is Q1. So let's test this. Let's see if this is true. Okay, so let's decrease our price. Okay, so we'll bring our price down to P2. Okay, P2. And we do the same thing again. We come across until we hit our demand curve, and then we come down. And you can see that when the price fell, the price moved towards the origin, the quantity increases. The quantity moves away from the origin. So the price falls and the quantity increases. We could do something similar where if we increase the price here to P3, I'm running out of space. Then we come across, we hit our demand curve and we come down, and again our quantity has decreased. Okay, so if our price goes up, our quantity demanded goes down. If our price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. And that's the reason for our downward sloping demand curve. Okay, so what's going on here when the price changes? It's called a movement. Okay, so I'd write it out, but I'm just using my trackpad. I should apologize before we go any further. I don't have the best equipment. If you're looking for better videos, which there definitely is on YouTube, I understand this is a crowded market, and there's lots of fantastic videos out there going through the same stuff. So I'd recommend Khan Academy. I might put a link to his channel in the description. But if I can help one or two students coming up to exams, that's job done for me. Okay, so you'll have to bear with me when I'm drawing and when I'm writing. My writing isn't as neat as the likes of Khan Academy, but this is called a movement. Okay, so this is a movement along the demand curve. Okay, so we go from this point here to this point here, and that is a movement. Okay, what else can happen though? Okay, so we know that this demand curve here, it shows us the given quantity demanded at different price points, but something else can occur, and that's when the entire demand curve changes. Okay, so that's if the entire demand curve were to shift to the left or to the right. Okay, so that's supposed to be parallel. So for some reason, and you can see that there's 4 reasons down here. Okay, 4 reasons down here. For some reason, the demand curve can shift to the left or to the right. And have a quick think, okay? So remember our origin is here. Have a quick think. Do we think that the demand will increase or decrease at every price point if our demand curve shifts to the left? Okay, so let's say the demand goes from D to D1. Okay, do we think our demand will increase or decrease at every single price point? So have a quick think about that while I while I make this a bit neater. Okay, so we have our reasons here, and you can see the first one is a change in taste or fashion. The second one is a change in income. The third one is unforeseen circumstances, and the fourth one is the price of other goods. And we can break that into 2 parts. Okay, so we'll go through all of them in a minute, but before we do, we just need to figure out, is our demand increasing or is our demand decreasing when it shifts to the left or to the right? Okay, so first of all, we'll pick our price here. So we'll say P1, and let's come across like we did last time. We hit our demand curve, we come down, and we can see that at P1, quantity 1 is demanded. Okay, quantity 1 is demanded. And let's cause our demand curve to shift to the right. So again, we'll get to that in a minute, why this might occur. But let's suppose our demand curve shifts to the right. So what do? Well, this demand curve no longer is the demand curve for the market or the household or whatever it is. So we continue across, and for the same price, a greater quantity is demanded. Okay, a greater quantity is demanded for the same price. And that's because our demand curve shifted to the right. When our demand curve shifts to the right, the quantity increases. And I'm sure we can all guess what happens when our demand curve shifts to the left. But I'll draw it out anyway. Okay, let's shift it to the left. And we've got our D1. And what happens? Well, you can see that our quantity has fallen. Okay, our quantity has fallen. So, to recap, if our demand curve shifts to the left, well then our demand falls. And if our demand curve shifts to the right, well then our demand increases. Okay, so the quantity demanded increases. So let's look at these four points. Okay, so number 1, a change in taste or fashion. Okay, so suppose we sell t-shirts, and our t-shirts they're in fashion and everyone wants to buy them, but for some reason they start to go out of fashion. Have a quick think. Do we think our demand curve is going to shift to the left or to the right? So our t-shirts that we sell are starting to go out of fashion. Well, our demand is going to decrease, isn't it? If the t-shirts we sell are no longer demanded as much, well, then our demand curve is going to shift to the left. Okay, our demand curve is going to shift to the left. And again, for the same price, we only sell, or we're looking at our demand curve, but we only have quantity 2 demanded rather than quantity 1. Okay, we could do the opposite. So suppose we're selling our t-shirts, and let's say, I don't know, Kylie Jenner decides to put a picture of our t-shirts on her Instagram story, and then all of a sudden our demand goes through the roof. The demand for our product goes through the roof and it increases. Okay, and for the same price, and we might eventually change our price, but at first, initially, the price remains the same, but the quantity increases. And I think that's a key point to take away from our shift. Okay, so when we were looking at a movement, we were looking at a price change and how the demand changes. In this case, we're looking at a factor other than price. Okay, so a movement is a change in demand caused by a change in price. A shift is a change in demand caused by any other factor other than the change in price. Okay, so yeah, we've looked at number one, a change in tastes or fashions. Number two, suppose incomes in our market or in our country or whatever it is increase. Okay, so incomes increase. How would we expect our demand to change? Is it going to shift to the left or to the right? Our demand is going to shift if our incomes increase. Okay, so we're going to use Y. So our income goes up. Well, then you'd imagine that our demand would increase, wouldn't it? Demand will increase if incomes go up. But that's not always the case, okay? So for most goods, that's the case. If our income goes up, well then so too will demand. We will buy more products if we have more money. However, can you think of any goods where our demand for these goods might fall if our income actually increases? Okay, so if our income increases, our demand for these goods might fall. Have a think. Okay, these are called inferior goods. Okay, so given or inferior goods, if our income increases, if our income goes up, Y goes up, our demand actually goes down. Our demand actually goes down. And as I said, these are given or inferior goods. And these are things like own brand products. Okay, so suppose we eat one box of I don't want to name any supermarkets, but let's just say supermarket A's. Okay, it's called Soup A, and they're Soup A brand cornflakes. Okay, Soup A brand cornflakes. And when we're on €20,000 a year, we buy one box of these every week, and then we get a raise. Our income goes up. We're not going to buy two boxes, are we? Because we only eat the same amount of cornflakes every week. We're not going to eat twice as many cornflakes. But what we're going to do is we're going to move away from this cheaper brand, and we're going to start buying the actual brand. Instead of buying the generic brand, we're just going to buy a better quality good. So we can think of it maybe in meat as well. So suppose we buy, I don't know, 2 pork chops every week when we're on 20,000 a year, but we buy really cheap quality meat, and then we get a raise, our income goes up, and instead of buying 4 pork chops every week, we're just going to buy 2 nicer pork chops. Okay, so when our income goes up, our demand for these inferior goods or given goods actually decreases. Okay, hope that makes sense. Hope that's straightforward enough. But we'll move on. Unforeseen circumstances. Okay, and again, I'm going to get you to have a little second to think about what might be an unforeseen circumstance that might cause demand to either increase or decrease. And we'll go with increase first of all. So again, have a think while I draw this out. Okay, so D1. So our demand is increasing. So suppose we are selling sunscreen. Okay, we're selling sunscreen. We live in Ireland where there's not much sun, but then all of a sudden there's a heat wave, and it wasn't to be expected. Okay, there was a heat wave, which is very unusual, and everyone runs out and buys sunscreen. Okay, so our demand has increased. The price has remained the same at first, but our quantity demanded increases. We could maybe do the opposite. So suppose we sell big winter jackets, and it's the middle of February, and we're not expecting many sales. Not that we're not expecting many sales. We're expecting lots of sales, and we're selling jackets. Or maybe even say it's December. It would be even stranger. So we're in the middle of December. We're selling winter jackets. We think this is going to be a fantastic time of year for our company. But then all of a sudden there is a heat wave in the middle of December. And instead of buying winter jackets, people are buying t-shirts instead. Okay, So nobody wants a winter jacket when it's 25 degrees outside. And our demand falls, okay? So this could be an unforeseen circumstance as well. The price of other goods, okay? And as we said, we can split this into two categories, okay? Substitutes and complementary goods. Substitutes and complementary goods. And again, have a little think. What might be... Well, I suppose we should come up with what good we're selling first. Okay, we're selling burgers. So let's say Easy Burgers. Okay, Easy Burgers. And this is the market demand for Easy Burgers. This is our graph over here for the demand for Easy Burgers. And what might be a substitute good for our Easy Burgers? A good that someone might be able to buy instead of our Easy Burgers. Well, it would be another brand of burger, wouldn't it? Another brand of fast food. And again, I don't want to to name any brands, so I'm just going to call them Mac Burgers, okay? Mac Burgers. Mac Burgers. I'll leave it at Mac B. So you should know that that's Mac Burgers, okay? And the price of the Mac Burger falls, okay? So it goes from €2 to €1 per burger, okay? So this is a substitute good. Instead of buying an Easy Burger, people can buy a Mac Burger instead. They're very similar. You can swap one for the other. They're very similar products. What do we think is going to happen to our demand if the price of the Mac Burger goes from €2 to €1? Remember, the price of our good stays the same, but the price of our competitor's good falls from €2 to €1. Well, our demand is going to fall, isn't it? So our price remains the same, but less people buy our product. And that's because our competitor's product is now cheaper. Okay, so more people are going to buy this burger instead of our own burger. Okay? And the opposite could happen if they were to increase it from €2 to €3. €2 to €3. Well, then it'll just go the opposite way, wouldn't it? So we can get rid of this here. And we can draw it in. Our D1. And our demand would increase. Okay? And it'll go up to Q2 here. Okay, and what about a complementary good? Again, have a little think. What do we think would be a complementary good for our product? Okay, so remember, we're selling Easy Burgers. Well, what about fries? Okay, so fries. People buy fries with their burger, chips with their burger, whatever you want to call them. Oh crap! Again, apologies for the sloppy writing. It's going to take me a bit of time to get used to this. Okay, so what about fries? Well, people usually buy fries with their burgers, or we can maybe think of soft drinks if that's easier. But we'll stick with fries for the moment. So let's say the price of fries falls. Okay, so the price of fries decreases. What's going to happen to our demand? Well, if the price of fries falls, oh crap. Well, then perhaps more people will be able to afford an Easy Burger meal. Okay, so the price of fries has fallen. So the price of the Easy Burger meal has fallen because complementary goods are goods that are used in conjunction with each other. So fries and burgers, golf clubs, golf balls, DVDs, DVD players. Two goods that are used together, okay? So if the price of one of them falls, the demand for the other one increases, okay? So the price of our burger has stayed the same, but the price of fries has fallen, okay? So I'll draw a little arrow. The price has fallen. So therefore, D1, therefore the quantity of burgers has increased, okay? What if the price of fries were to increase? The price of fries were to increase, it would just be the opposite, wouldn't it? The meal is now more expensive, and for the same price, so the burgers are the same price, for the same price there is less burgers demanded. Okay, quantity 2. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Let me know in the comments if it's not. If this was helpful, again, please let me know. If there's anything you think I can do better, let me know. And I hope this does help. There's going to be a series. I'm going to go through demand, which I've done today. I'm going to then go through supply. We'll put them together, and based on how successful these videos are, I might continue to go on and cover more stuff with you. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.